It started with a faint signal, one no one else could hear, a cry for help from a dying alien ship, and humanity answered. What began as a rescue turned into the greatest war the galaxy had ever seen. And in the end, Earth became something no one expected, the last hope of 1,000 civilizations. This is how humanity saved the stars. Before we dive into this epic sci-fi saga, if you're a fan of first contact stories, alien empires, and humanity rising against impossible odds, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. This isn't just a rescue mission. It's the beginning of a galactic revolution. Now let's begin. The deep void stretched endlessly in every direction, a quiet ocean of stars pierced only by the slow drift of the astral nomad, a research vessel of Varellan ascendancy. On its command deck, Captain Nalos Vire stood motionless, gazing out to the curved observation glass as constellations shimmered like ghosts of ancient fires. His violet-toned skin bore the etched creases of too many cycles in the stars, lines not from age, but for what had seen in the silence between worlds. For over 1,000 generations, the Varellans had charted the galactic wilds. Yet nothing, not myth, not sensor logs, not nightmares, had ever hinted at this. Captain, came a strained voice from the signal pit. Ensign Kalari turned from her console, her four crystalline eyes shimmering with unease, the telltale sign of her Asari heritage. Something is approaching. Outer rim, multiple signals. Delos moved to her station, but the moment his gaze landed on a display, his pulse froze. Black silhouettes, dozens of them, slithered toward their ship like shadows with purpose. They were massive, dwarfing even the largest known dreadnoughts. But it wasn't just their size. They moved with intention, graceful, erratic, predatory. "What are those things?" whispered Vera, the ship's xenologist. Her normally calm voice trembled as the screen shifted to a clearer image. "I don't know," Delos answered slowly. "But they are not part of the Galactic Concord. I want an emergency relay to Citadel Vega. Now!" But before Kalari could transmit, one of the entities neared, and what they saw stripped the bridge of breath. It wasn't a ship. It was alive, yet not entirely. A biomechanical nightmare, its shell a grotesque tapestry of shifting alloy and sinew, twitching with motion. From its core extended elongated appendages, each one ending in blades and instruments shaped not for creation, but dissection. "Spirits of the void," murmured Corin, head of security, staring in disbelief. "That's not a vessel. That's a predator." More of them appeared on the monitors, weaving in and out of formation, tightening a net around the astral nomad. Their flight patterns weren't random. They were herding. The nomad was no warship. It wasn't meant for conflict. Its hull was science wrapped in curiosity, not armor. Its only defenses? Minimal point lasers meant for repelling debris, not creatures. "They're scanning us," reported Elian, her hands trembling as her console lit up. "They're learning." Then came the strike. A flash, bright, unnatural, and then another. Beams of raw energy lashed out from the creatures, hammering into the nomad's shielding. The ship bucked violently, alarms screaming across every deck. Shields dropping. 80%, shouted the chief systems officer. "We can't hold long, sir. They're too strong. Stronger than anything we've encountered." And Nalos knew, in that harrowing instant, that these were not explorers, not wanderers of the deep like themselves. These were reapers, harbingers of something far older than stars, and far less forgiving. They were outmatched, outgunned, out of time. The Varellans had long abandoned the ways of war. Peace was their heritage, exploration their legacy. Their warships had been decommissioned generations ago, forgotten relics in forgotten vaults. And the astral nomad was no weapon. It was a dream wrapped in steel. Divert everything to thrust. Captain Nalos shouted, "We need distance, now." The engines flared, screaming as they strained against the pull of terror. But speed offered no sanctuary. The biomechs were faster, Apex predators dancing through the void with cruel precision. They close in, weaving between the ship's evasive maneuvers like shadows chasing light. Impact on rear shielding. "Shields down to 60%, cried the system's chief, his voice cracking. Another strike rocked the vessel. Then came silence. The kind of silence that screams louder than sound. Through the forward viewport, one of the things drifted close. So close they could see every cursed detail. It had no eyes, no face, just smooth, glistening armor fused with twitching muscle. But they could feel it watching them. And its mouth, its horrific maw, glistened with jagged metallic fangs. Its limbs stretched wide, reaching for the hull. It's trying to latch on. Corin yelled, eyes wide. If it grabs hold, we're finished. A low, vibrating hum filled the air. The lights flickered and died, then returned dim, unstable. Sirens shrieked as internal sensors went haywire. "They've made contact," shouted Rail, the engineering lead. "Some kind of cutting array. Our outer plating is buckling. Hull breach imminent if they maintain contact." There was no more time to hesitate. "Kalari," Delo said, voice grim, broadcast a distress flare. "Emergency Protocol 7. Put on every wideband frequency we've got." Kalari's fingers raced across her console. "What message, sir?" "Tell them we are under siege. Unknown hostiles. Defense is crumbling. Requesting immediate assistance. Anyone, anywhere." She initiated the signal, but before the data stream stabilized, another blast rattled the deck. Panels burst into sparks. Smoke curled from the ceiling vents. "Captain," Kalari shouted, "the primary array's compromised. I can't confirm if the message is transmitting or if it's even on the right channel." "Keep broadcasting," Delos growled. "Don't stop. It's our only hope." The torment went on, drawn out like some cruel sport. The biomechs didn't want to destroy the Nomad in one blow. They wanted to dismantle it, to dissect it, piece by agonizing piece. The crew could only brace against the chaos as their home was unraveled around them. Monitors dying, bulkheads splitting, systems failing. Yet still they endured. Still they hoped. And light years away, across the yawning chasm of the galaxy, a faint pulse whispered through the dark. The message drifted across forgotten starways, riding an obsolete channel most civilizations had long since stopped monitoring. It was fractured, jagged static mixed with desperate words. But it moved on, past dead worlds, past ancient empires, past cold machines no longer listening. Still it traveled, because sometimes hope doesn't need permission to survive. The signal limped through the void, fraying with each passing light year, growing fainter as the hours dragged on. It crossed cosmic dust storms and ancient stellar fields, until finally it brushed against a quiet little system orbiting a golden star. A small, blue world, primitive by galactic standards, but curious, evolving. On the dusty lunar outpost of Halcyon Station, where the people of Terra had recently established a modest deep space array, one tired officer sat alone beneath the stars. Lieutenant Commander Jacob Miles had grown used to silence. Years of monitoring channels that never spoke back had dulled his expectations. Space, he often thought, was a stage with no actors. Until tonight. At first, he almost ignored the blip. Just static, maybe a solar echo. But something in the rhythm made him pause. It wasn't noise. It was patterned. "Reese," he called out, motioning to his partner. "Come here. I think we got something." Specialist Eliza Reese stepped over, brushing stray curls behind her ear. A linguist and cryptoanalyst, she'd spent her life chasing the dream of first contact. One glance at the stream, and her breath caught. "This isn't random," she whispered. "This is a message. Someone, something, is speaking." All through the night, they worked, translating the alien script line by line. Mathematical loops, phonetic pulses, and desperate tones. It wasn't easy, but slowly it became unmistakably clear. It was a cry for help, a voice from the dark, Across the stars, aboard the crumbling astral nomad, the end drew near. The hull had been pierced in multiple sectors. Atmosphere hissed into the void. The crew had sealed off compartment after compartment, retreating into smaller, dimly lit sanctuaries. Primary systems are down, Rail reported, sweat on his brow. Emergency reserves holding barely. Captain Nalos Vire looked around the shattered bridge. These were explorers, dreamers, builders of knowledge, not warriors. They had charted black holes and mapped nebulae. Not one of them deserved to die like this. How much time do we have? He asked quietly. Maybe hours, Kim replied, if nothing else breaches. Delos closed his eyes, searching for peace in the chaos. Somewhere, perhaps, their signal had found a listener, a soul kind enough, or brave enough, to come. Back on Halcyon Station, Jacob and Eliza hadn't slept in days. Their eyes were bloodshot, their hands trembling from caffeine and adrenaline. But the message was decoded. Fully, authentically. Jake stared at the final translation, blinking in disbelief. This can't be real, he murmured. Alien life, asking us for help? What kind of joke is this? Eliza double-checked the signal integrity, the syntax layers, the numerical framing. Everything aligned. It's no joke, she said. This is real, Jake. And whoever they are, they're dying. Jake looked up at the vast screen showing the stars. Then we don't wait. We tell command. Now. Neither of them knew that their decision, 2 humans on a lonely moon, would awaken a planet and change the fate of the galaxy forever. They contacted their commanding officer immediately. Colonel Darius Pike had been fast asleep in his quarters aboard Halcyon Station, a half-finished mug of tea beside his bunk. But when Specialist Reese explained what she and Jacob had uncovered, sleep was the last thing on his mind. You're telling me an alien civilization just sent us a direct plea for help? Pike asked, now standing fully alert in his uniform, eyes narrowed. Yes, sir, Eliza replied firmly. The coordinates are embedded in the transmission. They're real. They're asking for rescue. Pike didn't hesitate. This was bigger than any moon-based protocol. He sent a secure line straight to Earth, to the Unified Planetary Defense Corps. And on the other end, answer without delay, was the woman who oversaw it all, Admiral Petrovas. She had weathered war, diplomacy, and disaster. But as she listened to the decoded alien transmission, its cadence, its desperate clarity, her face grew solemn. If this is authentic, Voss said softly, then our place in the universe just shifted. We're not alone, and someone out there is dying. Within hours, the signal had reached the desks of every world leader. Presidents, premiers, and planetary delegates from across the United Earth Assembly were summoned into emergency session. The message had ignited something profound. Hope, fear, wonder. Among the attendees was Dr. Elliot Kale, the planet's foremost xenoanthropologist, a philosopher-scientist known for decades of work speculating on alien life and how humans might respond. Admiral Voss turned to him. What do we do, Dr. Kale? Is this a risk or a responsibility? Dr. Kale studied the waveform again, tapping into the embedded patterns and cultural context. They're not warriors, he said finally. They sound like explorers, scientists. If they're reaching out like this, it's because they've run out of options. The debate was immediate and intense. Some fear it was a ruse, a cosmic bait meant to lure humanity into a trap. What if this was just the beginning of an invasion? But others argued passionately. The message was genuine, a cry of survival, not conquest. And if Earth ignored it, they'd be turning their back on something bigger than fear, on their own potential. After long hours, a vote was cast. The verdict: humanity would answer the call. Admiral Voss was granted full command of the operation. The rescue would be real, but it would be careful. How many ships? Asked General Rafael Mendez, Earth's chief military strategist. Voss considered. 10 vessels. Just enough to protect and support. Not enough to look like an invading force. But secrecy couldn't contain the story. The news slipped through encrypted channels, raced through media networks, and ignited imaginations worldwide. The rescue initiative became the most unifying moment in Earth's history. And leading the mission, hand-picked by Voss herself, was Captain Orion Rourke, commander of the heavy-class cruiser Gain Valor, Earth's most advanced interstellar vessel. The stars were calling, and humanity was finally ready to answer. The Pride of Sol, a crown jewel among the vessels of the Terran Coalition Navy, was unlike anything humanity had ever sent to the stars. Its captain, Orion Rourke, was a tactician by nature, but when it mattered, he led from the front. Calm, calculated, fearless. Admiral Petrovos looked him straight in the eye. Captain Rourke, this mission will define our species. First contact, first alliance, or first war. Don't give them a reason to fear us. Rourke nodded. Understood, Admiral. I won't fail you or Earth. What began as a rescue operation was quickly transforming into a galactic statement. The fleet grew with each passing day. Captain Elena Vasquez arrived with her carrier, Aurora's Edge. Captain Malik Tan brought the destroyer Tempest Rising. From the Eastern Alliance came the Yamato's Honor and Curii. The European Federation deployed the Gaul's Shield, escorted by corvettes. Even developing nations contributed. Frigates, patrol ships, supply vessels, all united under one banner. Earth had never seen such coordination. And behind the scenes, preparations intensified. Dr. Elliot Cale assembled the brightest minds of his generation to decode, decipher, and prepare. Among them, Dr. Amy Chun, a cultural semiotic specialist, and Dr. Carl Jansen, Earth's foremost expert on xenolinguistics. We're not just translating a language, Cale told them. We're trying to understand a way of thinking. The wrong word could spark disaster. They created advanced translation matrices, adaptive AI interpreters, and diplomatic protocols. They even rehearsed first contact scenarios, voice, body posture, tone light. Every detail mattered. And still, the fleet expanded. What started as 10 ships became 50, then 100. Now it was 200. It had become a migration of purpose. Humanity's greatest armada. The sky filled with the steel of every continent, every nation, every flag. Admiral Voss addressed the Earth Council once more. This is no longer a rescue, she said. This is our arrival. We are not sending a task force. We are sending humanity. On the bridge of the Pride of Sol, Captain Rourke stood tall, surrounded by walls of starlight and blinking consoles. Outside his viewport, ships stretched to the far edges of the fleet grid, rows upon rows of blinking lights, warping slightly as they prepared for departure. He activated fleet-wide comms. To all Terran vessels, he began, his voice calm, clear. Today, we carry not just our weapons, but our hopes. This is first contact. We're not here to conquer. We're here to help. But let no one mistake our kindness for weakness. He paused and added, if anyone threatens them or us, we will answer. And with that, the armada moved. 200 ships aligned, engines flaring to max burn. Destination, the stars. Time to arrival, 3 days. And in those 3 days, humanity would prepare to become something new. During the voyage, every crew member drilled relentlessly. They trained for high-risk extractions, practiced multi-species diplomacy, and ran combat simulations should the worst come to pass. Dr. Elliot Cale coordinated with the linguistics team to refine their grasp of the alien language. They had dissected every fragment of the original message, every nuance, every cadence, desperate to ensure they could speak peace before war spoke first. On the second day, a transmission pierced the void. It was faint, barely coherent, but it carried the unmistakable rhythm of the alien syntax. Jacob Miles and Eliza Reese, now aboard the command cruiser Pride of Sol, were the first to intercept it. They're still alive, Eliza reported, scanning the decaying waveform, but not for long. Their vessel's taken severe damage. They're losing power. Fast. Captain Ori and Rourke didn't hesitate. All ships, engines are full. We make contact before it's too late. On the third day, the stars blinked and space folded. They had arrived, and what they saw would rewrite everything humanity believed about their place in the cosmos. The fleet burst from hyperspace into chaos. Dozens of biomechanical monstrosities encircled the alien vessel, creatures that looked as though they had crawled from some twisted forge of metal and flesh. Massive things, each the size of an earthbound skyscraper, wrapped in armor that pulsed like skin, with limbs like razors. Rourke froze at the sight, then keyed the comms. "Dear God," came Captain Elena Vasquez's voice through the comm line. "What are those things?" The creatures weren't just surrounding the alien craft. They were dismantling it. Giant arms gripped the hull, tearing it apart chunk by chunk with terrifying precision. Living yet mechanical. Sentient yet heartless. "Fleet-wide alert," Rourke barked. "Battle stations. All ships prepare to engage. We're not letting them die." The alien vessel, a sleek, elegant construction compared to the hulking human warships, floated like a wounded bird among predators. It was no bigger than human destroyer and clearly built for exploration. Transparent domes housed delicate labs. Sensor arrays adorned its hull, and the damage was catastrophic. Its midsection had been breached. Fires flickered through the observation decks. Gaping holes revealed shattered chambers. Then, faintly, an incoming signal. "Captain." Receiving a transmission, Jacob said from the comm station, from the alien ship, barely holding together. Eliza leaned in over her console, fingers flying across her interface. Her translation matrix hummed as the signal decrypted. A moment later, she looked up, eyes wide, voice cracking. "They're thanking us." Rourke stood silent for a heartbeat. Across the fleet, systems activated, weapons primed, shields raised, because humanity hadn't just arrived at a rescue. They had arrived at war's doorstep. And for the first time in galactic history, the stars were about to see what Earth was truly capable of. "They're thanking us," Eliza said again, eyes wide. They didn't think anyone would come. They believed they were already dead. Captain Orion Rourke nodded grimly. "Tell them help has arrived. And tell them to hold on." The biomechs hadn't noticed the human fleet yet. They were too absorbed in their gruesome work, ripping into the alien vessel with unthinking brutality. But that was about to end. "All ships," Rourke ordered, voice steady. "Target hostiles attacking the alien craft. Prioritize threats. Fire at will." And space ignited. Plasma lances, railgun volleys, kinetic warheads, all tore through the void in a synchronized cascade. What had been a quiet graveyard of stars became a blinding inferno. The biomechs recoiled, caught in a storm they'd never expected. They had faced prey before. Fragile, unarmed, easy to consume. But this was fury forged in steel. 200 ships unleashed the wrath of Earth, and in seconds the enemy shattered. Half of the creatures disintegrated under the first wave. The rest, wounded and confused, turned to fight, but their tactics were primitive, their formations chaotic. They were beasts, not soldiers. They had never known war, and now they were losing it. "Focus fire on the largest one," Rourke commanded. "It's latched onto their bridge. Drive it off." The Colossus clawed at the alien vessel, arms like spears digging for the heart of the ship. Captain Elena Vasquez launched a salvo from the Aurora's edge. Missiles screamed across the void and detonated with brutal precision. The blast hurled the creature into the black, its charred frame spinning away like broken metal. Within minutes, it was over. The remaining creatures either disintegrated under concentrated fire or fled into deep space, dragging twisted limbs behind them. The stars fell silent once more. "Status report." Rourke called. "0 casualties. No damage," came the reply. "They never got close." Rourke exhaled, then turned his gaze to the alien ship, scarred, broken, but intact. "Deploy rescue shuttles," he said. "Let's bring them home." Lieutenant Bennett Rail, led the first boarding crew, a decorated Marine, trained for hostile takedowns and black site retrievals, but never for this. For first contact inside a dying alien ship. His team wore enhanced exo-armor and carried medkits, oxygen tanks, and translation headsets. They docked with the alien vessel at a fractured breach in the hull. Beyond it, the corridor was filled with smoke and the smell of burned circuitry. Lights flickered. Alarms whimpered. "Stay sharp," Rail whispered, stepping inside. "No sudden moves." He activated his translator. "Hello," he said slowly, carefully, using the few words Eliza had provided. "We're here to help." A silence. Then a door hissed open ahead, and at the far end of the corridor, silhouetted by red emergency lights, a figure appeared. Thin, injured, but alive. At the far end of the smoke-filled corridor, a figure emerged, tall, unsteady, and limping slightly as it stepped into flickering red light. Lieutenant Bennett Rail instinctively raised his weapon, then lowered it. The alien wasn't a threat. It was injured, barely standing, but it moved with quiet dignity. Blue-skinned and slender, it wore a charred, torn uniform that hinted at rank. Decorated, ceremonial even, now scorched by fire. "You are the ones who heard us," the alien said, its voice raspy, each word carefully formed in broken English. "I am Commander the Los Vire of the science vessel Astral Nomad. We believe we would die out here." Bennett blinked, stunned. "You speak our language?" Vire offered a tired nod. "We studied your signal. Learned fragments. We came as fast as we could," Bennett said. His voice soft to the translator mic. Vire's gaze drifted over the Marine's armor, the heavy rifle slung at his chest, and the insignia of the Terran fleet. "You are warriors," he murmured. "Your ships, your weapons, your unity. We have never seen anything like it." Rail gave a respectful nod. "We're soldiers, yes, but we're also here to save lives. Do you have others who need help?" Without a word, Vire turned and guided them deeper into the wreck. They found survivors huddled inside an emergency containment chamber, scientists, technicians, engineers, bloodied but breathing. Human medics moved in quickly, setting up triage centers and distributing oxygen, painkillers, and medical supplies. Soon after, a second shuttle docked. Dr. Elliot Kale stepped aboard, eyes wide with wonder, heart pounding with the weight of history. First contact was no longer theory. It was happening, now. Approaching the alien commander with cautious respect, he spoke. "I'm Dr. Elliot Kale, cultural envoy for the Terran Coalition. We want to understand you, learn from you, but most of all, we want to help." Commander Vire studied him, then bowed slightly. "Dr. Kale, your people saved my crew. Ask what you will. You have earned our trust." Across the wreckage, Eliza Reese worked side by side with Nayla, Vire's communications officer, to refine the language systems. Their shared passion built a bridge, quickly improving translation accuracy. "Your species learns with astonishing speed," Nayla said, impressed. "It took us decades to master the tongues of other worlds." "Other worlds." Dr. Kale leaned in. "There are more?" "Hundreds," Vire replied. "We are part of a vast alliance, a galactic community of civilizations who share knowledge and peace." The humans were stunned. They hadn't just discovered one species, but a galaxy full of intelligent life. "What were those things that attacked you?" Captain Rourke asked from the command feed. Commander Vire's expression turned grim. "We call them Devourers. They arrived 50 cycles ago. They consume worlds, life, everything. Systems have vanished." "Where do they come from?" Kale asked. Vire looked away, voice low. "We don't know. They simply appeared, and death followed." "They consume everything," Commander the Los Vire said quietly, his voice echoing in the observation deck aboard the Pride of Soul. "And we are not built for war." He glanced at his security chief, Warden Koss, who stood with arms folded, observing the Terra Marines. There was awe in his gaze, admiration, even, "You destroyed them in minutes." Ka said to Lieutenant Rail. It took our defense fleet hours to delay even one. Captain Orion Rourke felt the weight settle on his shoulders. This wasn't just a rescue. This was the tip of something far larger, a galaxy under siege, and humanity was the first to push the tide back. Commander Vire, Rourke said, his tone measured, we need to speak to your superiors. If these devourers are sweeping across your galaxy, this isn't just your problem anymore. It could become ours. Vire nodded solemnly. I'll reach out to the Galactic Concord. They must know what you've done. Your kind may be the hope we've waited for. As medics worked and survivors were tended to, a new reality unfolded for the Terran fleet. Earth was no longer just a pale blue. It was now entangled in the fate of stars, of civilizations beyond imagination. The Devourers had struck one ship, but the humans had responded with the force of an empire in the making, and the war hadn't even begun. Later, in the strategy chamber aboard the Pride of Soul, Commander Vire stood beside Captain Rourke, his wounds bandaged but his expression heavy. What I show you now will change everything, he said. The room dimmed. A star map filled the air, projected from Nelka's wrist interface. Glimmering lights marked systems inhabited by intelligent species, blue, green, violet, vibrant with life. But some were black, dead, and more flickered, fading into silence before the Terran's eyes. These darkened stars, Vire explained, once held thriving worlds. Now they're graveyards. The Devourers began at the galactic rim 50 cycles ago. We tried to resist. We failed. Dr. Elliot Kale stepped forward, his eyes locked on the vanishing systems. How many lives? Billions, Vire replied, voice subdued. Species that had never known extinction. Cultures older than your sun. Gone. Erased. Kale's jaw clenched. Entire biospheres undone. Captain Rourke stared at the map, noting the trajectory of the Devourer's advance. This isn't chaos, he said. It's strategy. They're not feeding. They're conquering. Vire gave a weary nod. That is our belief as well. But we've never taken one alive. They fight until they fall. And when they die, he paused, eyes narrowing. They don't leave a body behind. Only fragments. Burnt. Hollow. When they fall, Commander Delos Vire said grimly, their bodies vanish. Nothing left but ash and twisted fragments. As if they were never truly alive. Security Chief Ka stepped forward, gaze intense. Captain Rourke, he said, your people fight unlike any we've seen. You didn't hesitate. You struck with overwhelming force. Together, we fight them ship by ship, one at a time. Rourke didn't mince words. That's why you've been losing. He pointed at the fading stars on the holographic display. These things aren't scavengers. They're predators. You don't pick them off. You crush them before they can coordinate. Give them a second to think, and they'll find your throat. Commander Vire activated another section of projection. A cascade of research files and energy readings spilled across the air. This was the purpose of our mission, he said. We weren't just exploring. We were studying the Devourers, trying to uncover a vulnerability. The data was horrifying. The creatures weren't simply machines, nor were they living beings in the traditional sense. They were something in between, engineered organisms fused with technology far beyond anything known to the galactic community. They're constructs, Vire said. Weapons. Someone or something designed them. Dr. Elliot Kale stepped closer. But for what purpose? Who would unleash something like this? We don't know, Vire replied. We've never made contact with their creators. No demands. No messages. Just the silence of annihilation. Wave after wave, they just keep coming. Captain Rourke felt a cold dread coil in his chest. They're headed for the galactic core, he muttered. And if that's the case, Earth is in their path. Yes, Vire confirmed. And that is why we need your help. Your species has what we lack. You know how to fight. You understand war. Captain Elena Vasquez chimed in from the Aurora's edge. Rourke, We need to escalate this. Admiral Hayes needs to hear everything. He agreed. Within hours, he was patched into the Earth Council's secure network. Holograms of Earth's top leaders filled the war room. Admiral Patricia Hayes leaned in, expression sharp. You're telling us the entire galaxy is under attack. Yes, Admiral, Rourke replied. And the species out here, brilliant as they are, aren't soldiers. They weren't prepared for this. But we were. General Frank Mercer spoke next. How many ships do they have? Thousands, Rourke said, but they're exploration vessels, cargo haulers, research labs. Most have minimal armaments. They can't stand against the devourers. Admiral Hayes looked to her fellow council members. If these things are heading for the galactic core, they'll eventually breach Terran space. We can't sit idle. President Lyndon Johnson, seated at the center, broke her silence. What are you proposing, Admiral? Hayes didn't hesitate. We take the lead. We can't sit back and wait, Admiral Patricia Hayes said, her voice echoing across the Earth Council's virtual war chamber. If we wait for them to reach Sol, it'll already be too late. We take the fight to them now. Dr. Elliot Cale adjusted his glasses, eyes fixed on the alien data, still streaming across his console. This is humanity's moment, he said. Not just to survive, but to lead. They reached out to us. Now we reach back with strength. The council chamber erupted into a whirlwind of opinions. Some demanded the fleet return to defend Earth. Others argued for full-scale entry into galactic war. The debate stretched for hours. Then Commander the Los Vire spoke, his alien face solemn, yet filled with something that hadn't existed before. Hope. Leaders of Earth, he said, you possess something rare. You fight and win. But more than that, you came for us. No profit, no promise of power. You answer a cry for help. That tells us everything. President Lyndon Johnson leaned forward. What do you ask of us, Commander? Vire didn't hesitate. Teach us. Show us how to stand, how to strike. Give us your soldiers, your strength. Stand with us. Silence fell over the council. Admiral Hayes rose. We will not leave this galaxy to burn, she said. Earth will stand, and Earth will fight. General Mercer, grim-faced, spoke up. Admiral, this war could last years. Are we ready for that kind of commitment? We must be, Hayes replied. If we don't face them now, they'll reach us stronger, and we'll be weaker. The council voted. Unanimously, humanity would enter the war. Admiral Hayes immediately began organizing the largest military initiative in Terran history. Shipyards on Earth, Luna, Mars, and Titan lit up with activity. Civilian vessels were repurposed. Exploration fleets were converted into strike groups. The entire solar system transformed into a war forge. Captain Orion Rourke received his next assignment. You will escort Commander Vire to the Galactic Concord. Admiral Hayes told him, you will be our voice. Rourke nodded. And what exactly should I say? Tell them Earth stands ready, she replied. Tell them humanity has seen the darkness, and we refuse to run from it. Dr. Cale and his diplomatic team worked day and night with alien scientists. The knowledge flowed both ways. Humanity shared its battle-tested strategies, formation tactics, and offensive doctrines. In turn, the Concord offered their technological marvels, plasma shielding, subspace engines, and adaptive armor. Your weapons, Nayla observed, strike with brutal force, but your defense systems are behind. Our energy fields, your firepower. Together, we might just have a chance. Every hour, every effort brought them closer, closer to unity, closer to war, closer to hope. Day by day, human and alien minds fused their brilliance. Engineers collaborated across species, sketching new designs for weapons that had never existed before, tools born from desperation and unity. On the training fields, soldiers were drilled side by side with warriors from distant stars, teaching and learning the art of survival. Warden, one skeptical of humanity's blunt methods, stood in awe. "You predict every scenario," he said to Captain Rourke. "You plan for the worst before it happens. It's unsettling but impressive." Rourke offered a tight smile. "We've learned the hard way. Peace is a gift, but not everyone honors it. Sometimes, to protect what matters, you need to stand your ground and fight back." While preparations accelerated, grim news poured in. The Devourers were no longer just attacking. They were swarming. Multiple systems were falling at once, as though the enemy realized something had shifted. "They've adapted," Commander the Losvire said, staring at tactical projections. "Your fleet's resistance caught them off guard. Now they're pushing harder, burning faster, trying to destroy what they can before we stop them." Captain Rourke studied the galactic map. The shadowed regions were spreading, more dots going dark by the day. "Then we have to move faster than fear." "How long to reach the Galactic Concord?" he asked. 3 standard days, Vire answered. "But be warned, many of the member species have never seen weapons like yours. Your fleet might frighten them." "We're not going to intimidate," Rourke said. "We're going to inspire. They need to know there's a way to fight back." And so, the Terran fleet accelerated, no longer just explorers or heroes of a single rescue. They were now the spear point of galactic resistance. 3 months later, hyperspace tore open across the skies of the Galactic Concord's capital. Over 2,000 Terran ships emerged in flawless formation, engines aglow and hulls gleaming with purpose. Alien flight controllers watched in stunned silence. For long seconds, no one spoke. On the bridge of the Terran Defiance, Admiral Patricia Hayes stood with arms folded, her gaze fixed on the shimmering jewel of a world ahead. The capital of the Concord glittered with spiraling cities of crystal and alloy. Ships from 100 species danced through orbit like stars in motion. "Admiral," her comms officer said, voice cracking with awe, "we're receiving signals from over 50 species. They're all asking who we are." Hayes smiled. "Tell them we're from Earth," she said. "Tell them we came to stand with them." As Captain Rourke guided the Earth's pride toward the surface, a knot tightened in his chest. The council chambers below waited, alien races from across the stars ready to meet their newest, unexpected allies. This was more than diplomacy. This was destiny. Inside the grand chamber of the Concordium, hundreds of alien delegates assembled to meet the newcomers from Earth. Some hovered on translucent wings, resembling colossal insects. Others shimmered like plasma ghosts, their forms shifting with every breath. A few defied all logic, being so abstract that human minds could barely process what they were seeing. Commander the Losvire stepped forward. "Esteemed Council, allow me to present Captain Rylan Rourke of humanity. His fleet answered our call and saved us from annihilation." At the center of the hall stood the High Arbiter, a radiant entity of light and sound whose voice rang like harmonized bells. Dr. Hamilton's translator captured every tone with precision. "Captain Rourke," the Arbiter intoned, "the echoes of your victory have reached us. Is it true? Did your fleet vanquish a devourer swarm in mere minutes?" Rourke nodded solemnly. "It's true, but we didn't come to boast. We came because this war touches us all, including Earth." A council resembling a sentient tree unfolded its limbs. "Captain, we've battled these monsters for half a century. We've sacrificed billions of lives, lost entire civilizations. What makes your kind believe you can succeed where we failed?" Without hesitation, Rourke activated a tactical hologrid. Glowing stars and fleet vectors filled the chamber. "Because we don't just defend, we strike. We don't wait for death to find us. We find the enemy and finish them." Gasps echoed across the room as his plan unfolded. Rather than play defense, the Terran fleet would launch a full-scale assault on the Devourer's command nexus hidden within the Void Nebula, an accursed region where the swarm regrouped and launched invasions. "You intend to invade their stronghold?" A jellyfish-like being pulsed with alarm. "That's madness. No one has ever returned from a Devourer base. No one's ever brought the full fury of Earth to their doorstep, Admiral Hayes said as she entered, her voice like a blade. We don't attack in fragments. We attack in force. Relentless, unified, absolute. Murmurs rippled as the council witnessed the scale of humanity's war engine. 2,000 ships, each one a fortress of metal and fire. Every vessel, Hayes added, is designed for one thing: obliteration. We hit hard, we hit fast, and we do not stop. Dr. Hamilton stepped in next. With your shield and engines merged into our designs, our ships are faster and tougher than ever. Together, we built something neither of us could build alone. Debate erupted. Some species, shaken by the losses they'd endured, feared risking more. Others, inspired by Earth's resolve, offered their support. Eventually, the Arbiter spoke once more. The Terran plan is bold, but it may be our final chance. You will have our intel and our ships. 2 weeks later, the Allied Armada gathered the edge of the void. Human vessels stood at the heart, ready to lead the galaxy into a battle no one dared imagine. The Allied fleet, now more than 3,000 warships strong, assembled at the edge of the swirling, violet depths of the Void Nebula. Ships of every design and origin hovered in silence, engines humming like a single shared breath before battle. Captain Reelan Clark stood on the bridge of Earth's Pride, watching the data scroll across the tactical screens. How many of them are in there? Over 10,000 targets, the science officer replied. They've been amassing for months, preparing their next offensive. Beside him, Warden, the alien security chief who had joined the human command, shook his head in disbelief. Your people anticipate everything. Backup plans for your backup plans. You even prepare for failure before success. Clark didn't smile. That's how you win wars. We studied every battle these creatures have fought. This time, we write the ending. At shiptime dawn, the offensive began. The human armada plunged into Nebula first. Formation tight, tactics precise. Behind them, the best warships of a dozen species followed, armed, trained, and now united by a common cause. The Devourers never saw it coming. The battle exploded into chaos and light. Human plasma cannons and kinetic railguns carved through the swarm. Alien particle beams and quantum shields absorbed the retaliatory fire. The stars inside the nebula disappeared behind walls of fire, debris, and destruction. Captain Maria Santos led the first strike wings, hundreds of fighters weaving between the larger vessels. They're tough, but not invincible, she reported. Focus fire on their core segments. That's where they're weakest. The Devourers fought with savage ferocity. For the first time in their existence, they were not the predators. They were prey. But the humans were relentless. Where other civilizations had crumbled under the weight of the swarm, Earth's forces pushed forward. Every retreat by the enemy was met with pursuit. Every gap in the line was filled in seconds. Admiral Hayes commanded from the Terran Defiance, directing the attack like a maestro of war. Second wave, engage now. Third wave, stand by. No pauses. No mercy. Keep the pressure on. The Devourers tried to flee deeper into the nebula, seeking the shadows. But they were pursued, hunted through the stars. Then came their final move. In one last desperate surge, thousands of Devourers charged toward the nebula's exit, hoping to escape into open space. If even a few hundred get out, warned Lisa Grant on comms, they'll regroup. The war starts all over again. Not today, Captain Clark replied. All ships form the wall. Nothing leaves this nebula. The combined fleet shifted into position, forming an unbreakable shield across the exit. Cannons primed, engines locked, and when the Devourers hit them, they shattered like glass against stone. The last wave crumbled under the unified fury of the galaxy's defenders. The war's turning point had arrived. The battle raged for 6 relentless hours. But when the final weapon fell silent and the last explosion faded into starlight, not a single Devourer had escaped. The Void Nebula, once a breeding ground for terror, was now eerily still. For the first time in over 50 years, the Devourer threat was no more. Status report. Admiral Hayes requested, her voice calm but tense. 17 ships lost, came the reply. Most were alien vessels caught in close-quarters crossfire. Human casualties are minimal. The bridge went quiet for a long second. Then the cheers began. Messages of celebration poured in from across the fleet. Alien commanders broadcast their thanks. Entire species, some long believed extinct, emerged from hiding. Worlds that had lived in fear for generations could finally breathe again. Commander Zesta approached Captain Clark amidst the celebration. His voice was quiet, full of wonder. Captain, we sent a simple plea into the dark. We never imagined it would bring this. Clark met his gaze. You asked for help, he said. We just answered. 6 months later, Earth's flag flew proudly beside hundreds of others at the newly formed Galactic Defense Headquarters. Where once there was fragmentation and fear, now there was cooperation and hope. Admiral Patricia Hayes was unanimously appointed the first Supreme Commander of the combined Galactic Fleet. Her strategies had not only saved the Cathra, they had saved the galaxy. Human engineers and alien architects worked side by side to rebuild the star systems ravaged by war. New defenses were erected, alliances formed, and for the first time, the galaxy had a united military presence prepared for anything. Dr. Peter Hamilton, now the first human ambassador to the Galactic Council, led efforts to bridge cultural divides between species. His work became the cornerstone of a new diplomatic era, and the story of Earth's rescue mission spread across the stars. It was told on crystal moons and ocean worlds, in markets, in universities, in children's bedtime stories. In 1,000 languages, across 1,000 worlds, the same message echoed. The Cathra had cried out for help, and humanity had answered, not with words, but with action. As Admiral Hayes would often say in her speeches, we came because you called. We stayed because it was right. And we will keep coming, for as long as someone, somewhere, needs our help. Humanity had entered the galaxy as newcomers. Now, they stood as guardians of peace. And so it was that a single, broken signal, lost in the dark, sparked a revolution in the stars. A new galactic civilization, founded on the belief that no one should ever face danger alone. Whenever the call for help came, the human fleet would answer. They sent a distress call, and humanity answered with fire and hope. But this was only the beginning. If you want to see what happens when Earth becomes the galaxy's last line of defense, subscribe now, and don't miss what's coming next. Like the story? Hit that like button, share it with fellow sci-fi lover, and drop a comment. Would humanity rise or fall in a war among the stars? Until next time, stay curious, stay brave,